Hello, Booktube. My name is Mark Richardson, and I thought I'd start with the Booktube Newbie Tag. Why did you start this channel? Well, I haven't yet. Experimenting with the technical aspects and seeing if this is the sort of thing I'd like to do. I do enjoy watching Booktube. I have quite a few channels I follow regularly and I comment on. It seems like a good way to expand the discussion. I read some types of books that aren't as heavily covered, although I enjoy very much the ones with the folks that I have those discussions with. What are some of the fun and unique things you bring to Booktube? I read widely. I'm a professional book person. In this case, I'm a library director, a small town library. I've been everything from a sailor to a bookstore owner. I've done all sorts of work, so I think I bring those life experiences with me. What are you most excited about for this new channel? Well, it's the conversation. It's the people's. It's seeing what other folks like, seeing if they like what I like, maybe dislike something that I like, or any of that. So it's another way to discuss books, which I get to do a lot in my profession, but it's what I enjoy. So this is just one more way to do that. Why do you love reading? That's a bit difficult. When I was younger, we didn't have all the opportunities for different types of entertainment that my children have now. They're all gamers and YouTubers and all that. I lived in a rural Vermont, basically in a hill farm. We had one channel and you could barely watch it. Books were a form of entertainment, a form of escape. They made my world a bigger place. So reading became a hobby, and then a pastime, and then eventually a way of life. What book or series got you into reading? It wasn't a series. Some of the earliest books I can remember would be like Robert Louis Stevenson, Kidnapped, Treasure Island, Mark Twain, Tom Sawyer, later Huckleberry Finn, never quite as much Huckleberry Finn. A lot of adventure stories. A lot of times these books were available in large sets of the classics, that sort of thing that a lot of homes had. Sometimes it was serendipity. I'd find a volume somewhere. Baseball stories, sea stories, that sort of thing. What questions might you ask your favorite booktubers? Well, in my case, they're probably technical. I've already tried to put together my first video. Very early on, found out the challenges were as simple as how do you place a book? How do you place a camera to capture the book that you're trying to manhandle? How are you showing the illustrations, the text, all that online? How are you discussing it? So I think there would be technical questions, but it'll probably be more than just that. What challenge to starting a booktube channel will be hardest to overcome? Well, I think the best booktubers that I watch have online personalities. So I think that'll be difficult. I don't want to come across as too serious or too humorous. I want to come across, as my natural self, and we'll see how that works. When did you start reading? Well, I can remember when I first understood what I was reading. I was in the house and I had a book. It seems simple now. Very brightly colored page with a sailboat. And underneath, the illustration was B-O-A-T. And I remember the light going on. Connecting the image with the word. And it was exciting. It was start of a lifetime. So that's, I would guess I was probably, I know I was probably in kindergarten, but maybe a year either side of that, I'm not sure. Number 9, where do you read? Well, I'm very fortunate to be able to read at work and get paid for it. That's important, and I do read a lot there. I have to read in genres and in areas that are of less interest to me to serve my patrons, and some that are areas that I'm very interested in. The nice thing about that is that it makes you a more rounded reader, that's for sure. I also have to keep up to date with things, and that's one thing I'll say that Booktube does. There are several booktubers who I actually now use as a resource when I'm ordering and deciding on books to get in my professional life. And I do that by having different types of booktubers or booktubers with different or varied interests. One booktuber is a professional reviewer. I go to him first. I have ordered books that he was reviewing. I have others that are more specialized, say in hard case crime. I'll look at those reviews. I have another booktuber who does a lot of the awards, like Man Booker, and has a very wide-ranging international interest in literature, and I listen to those Booktube reviews, and they also help me out in my professional life. But some of it's also for my personal reading, and so it's very valuable. What kinds of books do you like to read? I think the easy thing to say was because of my job that I read a little bit of everything. But what do I like to read? I started off young with adventure stories, which I still read. I have a very, very great fondness for nautical fiction. And I have a large collection, so I hope to cover that. I like thrillers. Some of the older ones, Hammond Dennis, Alistair MacLean, Frederick Forsyth, but I like the more modern ones like Daniel Silva. I like science fiction. I read a lot of science fiction as a young man. Not so much fantasy then, but some. Tolkien, Fritz Leiber, and those folks. I was a big Asimov, Clark Heinlein type of person. And I still read some of that. So I read a lot of nonfiction. Maritime history, New England history, European history. Read a lot of archaeology, technical reports, and more popular presentations. I trained as an undergraduate in archaeology. And one of the early books that had a big impact on me was C.W. Serum's Gods, Graves, and Scholars. I still have a copy. So those are my newbie tag questions. I'm hoping to get the channel together soon. I'm hoping it's something that at least a portion of you enjoy. And thank you very much, Booktube.